Welcome to Rouse Fly Box. Today we're going to tie what I call the tri-visible gurgler. It's a variation of a gurgler pattern, the gurgler head anyway. I don't bring the foam over the back, it's lashed down on the shank of the hook. Let's go over how I tie it. I start out with a size 6 Gamakatsu stinger hook and black flat wax nylon thread. And we'll start a base, bring it back to the bend, which is on a stinger hook is just about even with the point of the hook. And we're going to start off with the first material because it's going to be under everything else. We start out with a section of probably, I don't know, I don't count them, I pull them off. We're going to use Flashabou, pearl Flashabou. And I probably take 8 or 10 strands of Flashabou. I'm going to trim them even and tie them in like a tail. Stop at the bend of the end of the shank again. And then leave them long. You're going to trim them later. Like I said, I don't count them. I just take this about the same size clump every time. Next, you're going to tie in. I cut it to a 1/2 inch wide, a 1/2 inch section of thin razor foam, black razor foam. This is 2 inches long. I trim it, but I cut them to 2 inches. I pre-cut them so I have them on hand. Usually when I tie these, I try and crank a bunch of them out. And before we apply it, I take a little bit of Loctite, just standard Loctite, and put just a quick layer across the top of that thread. It's going to help bind down that foam, lock it in place. Then I lay my foam centered on the shank, even with the tail of the Flashabou. I'll get it started and I'll bring it up to the head where I want the head to be, right behind the eye, and I'll lash it down a little bit too far forward. I'll be able to pull back and still find the eye. You have a little bit of time with the Loctite. There we go. Nothing fancy yet. You're just going to bind it down. All you want to do is get it straight, get it locked down behind the eye correctly, and get it straight on the hook. Then you're going to fold it out. I like to make the head about gap length. The hook gap length out, are almost as wide or far out in front of the eye as the foam is wide. I'll pinch behind the eye, give 3 or 4 or 5 good wraps, make sure I can still get to the eye. That's all I need to be able to do. And then wrap my foam back to the point of the barb again, or the point of the hook again. And then lash down. I'll tighten it down the back a little bit tighter and just try and get like a slightly tapered body. See how that body is right there. Main thing is just keep everything straight. At this point, I'm going to trim it up. I'm going to trim the back of the foam about the size of the head past the bend of the hook, and then I'm going to come up and trim that into a point, and it's going to form like a cup. It's a curved tail. See that, to a point? And you're going to pull your, don't stretch your Flashabou because it will stretch, and once again about the same distance from the hook shank to the point of that tail, and come back here, cut off the Flashabou. I like to fish this pattern by itself. Bluegills will take this pattern, but this is very solid performer on even larger bass in the pads. It's just big enough to keep those little dinks off of it, but the larger bass will come to the top for this little popper. It's super durable, it floats really well, and it's a no-brainer to tie. And it's called a tri-visible, obviously, because I also use my larger hackle that normally don't get used on my skins, on my necks. I use neck hackle. I start out with a size 12 grizzly. I tie it in at the end. And then I'm gonna wrap that forward fairly tight, one right in front of the other. I want this to be a heavily hackled bug, and bring it about a third of the way. Usually use just about all the hackle for it. Just works out that way. I don't really tie this in any other sizes. I have tied it in a size 4, but it seems to do really well for whatever reason in a size 6. So I don't fight it, I go with it. There's your first hackle. Your second hackle, I have furnace and then I have greenwell. I like the greenwell for this, but furnace does very well also. I just like the lighter brown of the greenwell. Again, tie it in wet fly fashion, right in front of the grizzly, and you're going to put about the same size hackling as you did with the grizzly. Got a flash boost strand in there. And again, one right in front of the other. Keep it nice and tight. I like to really squeeze that first wrap in tight so you don't get a gap. And all I'm using really, I size the end hackles on the top of the neck, which normally get used sparingly anyway. If not, they hang around for years. There's your first two. And your last one is the black. And the black, I choose more of the webbing. I use a lot of the webbing for up towards the head. I want these to really move in the water. So we went from a 12 to a 10. And then this is actually closer to, it's easily a 6. It might even be a 4 hackle. It's very large. I want it to be large. I want it to be very webby. I'll take it up tight to the head. Give one extra turn when I got it to where I need it. And trim it off. If you happen to trap some, I'll grab them and pull them back. But I'm not too worried about it because I am going to trim that hackle. And throw a whip finish in there. And clip. Now, next, I'm going to come up underneath. I'm going to open my scissors to about probably a 45-degree angle. I'm going to come in even just above the point of the hook and trim the hackle off. I want this to lay flat in the water. I want it to lay all the way down in the film, but I don't want to trim it all the way flush, because I want that footprint as well. And then last but not least, quick dab of Sally Hansen's, fairly liberal dab, coat in behind that foam. This thing will take a beating in the lily pad, so I always head cement it. And there it is. The Tri-Visible Gurgler. Excellent pattern for bass. Excellent pattern for large bluegill as well. Crappie will come up to the top and hit these. But a very productive warm water pattern, very durable and very easy to tie. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck and see you in the water.